I've talked to more FBI people in the last 4 days than I did in the prior 4 years. As John has described it accurately, it is a place in utter disarray right now. This is a moment of terror for these people.
Because what's happening right now is a hostile takeover of the U.S. government.
People at the Federal Bureau of Investigation are very, very nervous that Kash Patel will become the new director, and it looks like he will be the new director. But even under the acting director right now, the new rules are being put in place, and people who were part of the FBI and they investigated Donald Trump for criminal wrongdoing, well, they've been sent their walking papers. Maybe it's me, but I think the president has a right to say, if you work at the FBI and you thought I was a criminal, I don't think I can trust you to carry out my agenda from this point forward. And so, of course, they should be fired. Also, anybody who was involved in the January 6th investigations are getting extra scrutiny as well, considering how those investigations were conducted. I was told, by the way, that was a pride and joy of the Department of Justice, that this is the greatest law enforcement endeavor the FBI has ever undertaken. So if you were part of the January 6th investigations, why aren't you proud of that? Why are you shy? Why are you reluctant to admit to the new boss that you actually participated in any of those investigations? I would think that you'd be standing on your desk in the office saying, you bet your ass I was part of the J6 investigations. Greatest moment in FBI history. I'm sorry, what? I should clean out the desk I'm standing on now? Oh, I see. Okay. Andrew McCabe, who was dismissed from the FBI under a cloud of suspicion and scandal, he's now, of course, a paid commentator on CNN, and he was very, very concerned about his brothers and sisters in the FBI.
This is totally unprecedented. FBI rank and file agents and analysts who make up the vast majority of the field offices who do the work of investigating these cases, of executing search warrants, of executing arrest warrants, doing surveillance, electronic surveillance, whatever it might be. Those people are never touched by the political winds that blow through every 4 years, nor should they be. They, as you said, they don't pick their work. They're assigned to the work that they do. The work they do is lawful. It's within FBI policies, and not doing the work is not really an option for them, right? They come to the FBI. Most of them come intending to stay for the entirety of their careers, 20 years or more, 20 years on the agent side, a little bit more for the support side. And so to be targeted in this way for termination potentially or retribution simply for doing their jobs on a major national security case is incomprehensible to them or anybody that knows the organization. I've talked.
Yeah, I'm a pause you there. I did notice I said that in a major national security case, because January 6th was a major case of national security. And understand the vast, vast, vast majority of people who were investigated, whose doors were broken down at 6 a.m. with people coming in and perp walking them out of the house. They were merely there. They didn't break anything. They didn't hurt anybody. They were just there. And their jobs are not being threatened as of now, but they are being asked, if they participated in these investigations, to voluntarily say that they did and what they did so that their behavior can be scrutinized, because I think it's fair to say that some people's civil rights were violated. And if you're an FBI agent and you were just following orders by investigating people, and in the course of that, you violated their civil rights, well, I'm sorry. But you should be subject to some kind of disciplinary action. And if that means losing your job, yes, because are you really going to use the Nuremberg defense here? Hey, I had no choice. I was just following orders. Let me tell you something. If you're an FBI agent and that's your defense, I don't want you with a badge and a gun representing the United States of America and the Department of Justice. That's the last thing I want. I keep hearing, how we should be afraid of these new Nazis who are coming into power. Well, they're literally using a Nazi defense right now. I'm not saying they're Nazis. I'm saying they're using their defense. We had no choice. We were following orders. We were told to investigate these people, so we did. Wow. We have precautions put in place in this government. By the way, you just heard Andy McCabe make his case for these people. At no point did he say these were perfect investigations. Everything about these investigations were righteous and they should be proud of what they did. No, what he's saying is, hey, these people didn't have a choice. They're not allowed to pick and choose what they investigate and what they don't investigate. They were just following orders. That's a hell of a defense. Try that out. Let's see how that works. when there are civil rights violations and you're sued. The federal government is sued. The Justice Department and the FBI are sued for violating people's civil rights. Hey, well, maybe violations were made, but we were just following orders. That don't work, Andy. And he knows better. That's why his voice is so shaky. Have you noticed how scared he sounds? Huh. I think he should be.
Talked to more FBI people in the last 4 days than I did in the prior 4 years. As John has described it accurately, it is a place in utter disarray right now. People are worried about, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to support my family? If I lose, if you're anywhere in the middle of that career, not close to retirement, if you get fired, you're done.
Yeah, you know what else really disrupts you from being able to support your family and paying your bills beyond just getting fired? You're fired, you're done. You know what else sort of renders you done? Being arrested and jailed. Being arrested and detained without trial for months on end. That sort of puts a damper on you being able to pay your bills and support your family. Pal. I'm sorry that you're having to deal with this. But this is the whole point. And that's what happened. And I'm sorry that that's uncomfortable for the Anderson Coopers of the world to confront. But the fact that we have this entire segment here where shaky-voiced Andy McCabe from the FBI is near tears because FBI agents have been asked if they participated in the January 6th investigations. That's all that's happened here. I'm sorry you're acting like you've got something to be ashamed of, pal. They were just following orders, and you can't fire them because they've got bills to pay. Is not going to work, nor should it.
The end of your reputation, your ability to get a new job, you lose your pay, you lose your chance at a pension, you lose your health insurance. This is a moment of terror for these people. It is absolutely disgraceful that they are being put through this in the middle of some political gamesmanship or active retribution. They don't deserve to be treated this way. It's unlawful and it's disgusting.
And John,
wow, it's disgusting. It's terror. It's political retribution. Again, can I describe what happened to people who walked through a door that was held open for them by Capitol police officers on January 6th at the Capitol building, greeted with smiles and nods and friendly conversation, and then they were arrested, they were detained, they were prosecuted. And do we think that was political retribution? Do we? I think we do. I'm not saying tit for tat. I'm not saying that this is vengeance. I'm not saying that if it was okay for them to do it to J6ers, then it's certainly okay, because it's not the same. That's not what they're being put through. It's not even close. And I don't think it's wrong for the president of the United States, who, by the way, campaigned saying that he was going to do just this and is in fact doing what he said he was going to do, for the president to say, yeah, I just pardoned all of the people who were prosecuted on January 6th because their civil rights were violated. We've had a lot of these convictions thrown out at the Supreme Court. There was a real problem with the way this was conducted. And if FBI agents went along with it and used the Nuremberg defense by saying they were just following orders, well, then we've got to question their character and whether they should continue to have the awesome power that we, the people, give them with our permission to carry that badge, carry that gun, and use deadly force against American citizens if they believe that they have the right to do so. You know, that's a pretty awesome responsibility as an FBI agent. And if you've got the kind of judgment that you went along with this kind of thing, well, I think you should be answering some questions. And that's all that's happening here. And the fact that Andy McCabe is peeing his pants about it tells me that, well, they're on the right track. Which brings us to Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki is very concerned about this that's going on at the FBI and other aspects of what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing with regard to the federal government and scrutinizing the way the executive branch has been run. So much so that she's decided to use some rather colorful language to describe how this is going down.
Because what's happening right now is a hostile takeover of the U.S. government. There's no other way to describe it. It's happening clearly across our justice system, where just a few hours ago, a deadline passed for FBI employees to fill out a questionnaire detailing their involvement in January 6 cases. In other words, they were asked to fill out basically a loyalty test.
I love it. Basically a loyalty test. Did you participate in the January 6th investigations? What is this, a loyalty test? No, I think it's an IQ test, ma'am. You either did or you didn't. But if you think that's a loyalty test, then you failed the IQ portion of the exam. This has nothing to do with your IQ, or it has nothing to do with your loyalty. It has to do with whether you took part in the investigations or not. That's okay. Go ahead, Jen Psaki. Go ahead with your hostile takeover of the federal government.
Best. That comes after an unprecedented purge of the FBI on Friday night when the Trump administration forced out top FBI career officials, multiple FBI field office leaders, and a number of DOJ prosecutors who worked on January 6th cases. Tonight, I'm going to talk to one of the prosecutors who was fired on Friday. His name is Jake Strubing. He was back at the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. this morning, where he was escorted to his office to pick up his things, drop off his computer, his phone, and his credentials. This is going to be his first interview since he was fired. He has a lot to say, and he's going to be at this table with me in just a moment.
Yeah. All right. Listen, let's just end this here. Can I just say, anybody who has had to suffer in the Biden economy or the COVID lockdowns over the course of the last several years, you probably had to experience that too, dropping off your laptop and your office key, cleaning out your desk and heading to the door. But I don't remember NBC News with their little peacock in the corner of the screen doing a sob story about you. This happens, okay? Sorry, it happens. But if I can just explain something to Jen Psaki and other members of the media in this town, well, in Washington, D.C., Democrats who are all screaming hysterically about what's going on here, and frankly, some deep state aficionados who call themselves Republicans, let me explain something to you. I learned this many years ago. You should have learned it, especially if you continue to work in the U.S. government or in a close proximity there too. If you work in the executive branch of government, like say in the Justice Department or the EPA or the Department of Agriculture, any one of those federal bureaucracies, you work for the executive branch. The head of the executive branch is the president of the United States. He's the boss. He's the chairman. He's the CEO. You work for him and the people he assigns as his senior, upper, and middle management. You work for them. They're allowed to say that your services are no longer needed here. They're allowed to fire you. Sorry, that's just how things work in the real world. All of us have a boss, and all of us work for someone, and they ultimately can fire us if it turns out we're not quite fitting in with the team. But let me be clear. For everyone saying that what Trump is doing is a hostile takeover of the government or a coup or some sort of chaos and unprecedented, let's be clear. If you work in the executive branch of government, you work for the president, not the other way around. He doesn't work for you. You're not the captain now. He is. And if he says you're done here, you're done here. Have you seen that there's news out there from economists, the experts, they're forecasting a depression, not a recession, a depression by the year 2030. See, it's this perfect storm of Social Security and Medicare hitting a breaking point with the largest generation about to hit retirement. Now, a smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. Pair that with a growing national debt and rising cost of living, and, well, that's why they're predicting a pretty big problem on the horizon. So what are you going to do right now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. See, this is the kind of diversity we like. Birch Gold is going to help you transition. It's also one of the transitions we like. Help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, real physical gold. And it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. So protect your future today. Text Larry, that's my name, Larry, Larry, to 989898. Get a free info kit on gold. And you'll also get a copy of The Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era. That includes a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation. We're only here to give you information. Text my name, Larry, to the number 989898. Do that today.